Hello, friends. This is Dr. Benjamin Smith, lecturer in philosophy with Catholic Studies Academy. Today is Saturday, June 1st, 2024. Today I want to bring you a few comments related to Memorial Day, patriotism, and the almost forgotten virtue of piety. Not too long ago, we celebrated Memorial Day. I guess it was about a week ago. And Memorial Day always is a somber, actually, holiday for us in the United States, or it should be. You might forget that Memorial Day isn't about hamburgers and hot dogs and grilling out, although there's nothing wrong with that. Memorial Day is first and foremost about remembering the dead, namely remembering our fallen soldiers, that is, soldiers who died fighting for the United States of America. And that way, my friends, I've always thought it really ought to be sort of almost a semi-Catholic holiday. For Catholics, of course, are good at remembering the dead. We indeed pray for them, and to be sure, it would be wise and good for us to pray for our fallen soldiers, as well as remembering them. But in general, Memorial Day is there to remember the dead with honor. That is, to express respect for their act of dying in combat for the country. We don't honor everything that they did necessarily. We don't know most of the men, of course, obviously, who fell and most of the details of their lives. But we honor that act. We honor that act because it was an act for our nation. I think that part perhaps maybe needs to be thought on for a few minutes. It is one thing for a man to be willing to die, but there are those who are willing to die for an evil cause. Even those who are willing to die in bloody combat for an evil cause. We know that just from knowing history. That in itself is not praiseworthy, therefore, or honorable. So what then makes the act of willing to die for the United States of America honorable? Well, to be sure, I think, logically, that presupposes that it's right and good that they died for our nation. That is, we have, as fellow citizens, a connection with one another. Right? And they died, in a sense, for us. And so it would be ungrateful, right, for us to not honor them. They died, indeed, in a sense, for the common good of myself and my fellow citizens. They died, as I say, for us. And it is right that we honor that. Again, it would be great ingratitude not to do so. But again, there is a little nagging question here. They died for us, for our nation, for our country, and it's good and honorable that they did so. It's at least praiseworthy. That involves us, I think, inextricably with honoring our country, right? With patriotism. That is, there is a sense in which if we praise those who have died for the United States, we are in a sense saying the United States is good. The United States is something worthy of offering one's life for. Now that is interesting when you put it that way, and perhaps some maybe even want to pull back when you state it that plainly. And that goes along with, I think, that hesitancy with, in fact, the decline of what I would call properly ordered patriotism. Patriotism is the virtue, I would say, or at least the inclination to honor one's country, to show respect for one's country, to love one's country. Now, very interestingly, just right around Memorial Day, which again was about a week ago, a Pew study came out that cited that only about a third of the young people in America believe that patriotism is very important. I'll say it again. Only about 1/3 thought that patriotism was very important. When you look at older generations, the older generations have the exact inverse attitude. That is, 2/3 think it's very important. Only 1/3 think it is not. How interesting is that? That there is such a decline in patriotism. Now, when this was reported, it was reported along with the news that an even smaller amount think that It's that America is the best place to live in. Now, I think in the popular mind, and certainly in the minds of the journalists that reported this, these are linked things. That is, thinking, having a high opinion about America, or even the view that America is the best country ever, or that America is the best place to live, is somehow related to patriotism, or patriotism about America. Now, I think there is some background here that makes sense. That is, the claim of American exceptionalism and superiority is often closely linked to patriotism. But I think it need not be that way. I do think that America is a perfectly fine place to live. I don't know if it's the best, but it's a very good place to live in a lot of ways. But my patriotism, friends, isn't really based on that. My patriotism is based on the simple empirical fact that the United States of America is my country. I love it because it's mine, right? I don't love it because of all the great things it's done. I honor the good things it's done, right? But my patriotism isn't rooted, right, in an estimation that the United States of America is the best country or even exceptional. It's rooted in the basic fact that it is, in fact, my country. Now, that could raise a question, what about it being mine makes it praiseworthy? That's a good question, right? Because just because it's mine or has a relation to me doesn't in itself make it praiseworthy. But I think we need to add one further facet here, and that is that I honor the country because it is one of my sources. That is, it is one of my causes. It's part of the origin of my being and my happiness. That sounds a little strange at first, but you think about it. This connects patriotism to what, I call the almost forgotten virtue of piety. Piety, as St. Thomas Aquinas defines it, is that great virtue that disposes us to honor our first causes, our highest causes, namely God, of course, first, our country, and our parents. These are the great causes from which my being, my welfare, and my happiness flow. That's worth thinking about, right? Again, God, our country, and our family are the great sources of my being. And again, I would be ungrateful and unjust not to extend to these sources my respect and gratitude. Of course, we don't give this piety equally. God is first and foremost always. Right? But we do respect and honor our parents rightly because they brought us into the world. And secondly, we also rightly respect and honor our country because it is a source of our being, again, of our welfare, of our happiness, of our education, of our culture, of all those good things, right, that we benefit from. So, friends, when we think about Memorial Day and we think about patriotism, I want you to also think about piety, right, that great and almost forgotten virtue. I think it is worth noting that piety ties together three things that, when I was a child, were often tied together and tied together with honor and respect, and that is God, family, and country. That's almost sort of the creed I grew up with, so to speak, loosely speaking, I should say. And I think it is worth noting that the decline in respect for these three things seems to run parallel. Disrespect for parents, and you see it all the time. Can't believe the things that children say and do with respect to their parents, but disrespect for parents and the family, disrespect for the country, and disrespect for God seem to run fairly parallel. Now, of course, these things are separate, and of course, God is loved above all as the supreme good, so we're not mixing things incorrectly. But these things do seem to run together. So, friends, again, I encourage you to celebrate Memorial Day next year when it comes around. And when you do so, right, think about patriotism. Think about the proper love and honor that we owe to our country. And think about that great virtue of piety that disposes us to honor those great sources in our lives, our parents, our country, and our God. Thank you, friends, for listening. Please do check out my writings over at Logos Letter 2022. There's a lot of great writing over there in political philosophy. Also, check out our other videos here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed already, please do become a subscriber to our YouTube channel. And also think about purchasing courses. There are courses available in philosophy over at CatholicStudiesAcademy.com. Until next time, God bless.